Hello and welcome to the Blue Open Studio tutorial video series. The topic of this video will be reports. In this video, we will be discussing how reports are generated and saved, and the properties of the report worksheet. And then we'll demonstrate creating a report worksheet, and generating and viewing a report, and locating the reports in Windows Explorer, and finally viewing reports outside of Blue Open Studio. In Blue Open Studio, reports are generated dynamically at runtime, and they will include the current values of any configured tags. And the way this is accomplished is by a report worksheet that we will configure. So we create a report template or worksheet labeled Report 1. And then we will need to set up several different features. The first would be a screen user interface, and then on the report worksheet, we would set up what the report name is going to be and what file extension we want to use. And we have 5 different file formats to choose from. We have text file, CSV, RTF, HTML, or XML. And then we have to configure the save button or trigger. And the way that a report is saved is by running a built-in function. So this can be done through a command animation put on a button or any other screen object. It could be done through a background script or screen script, and it could also be done through the scheduler. And when we discuss scripting, we'll show all the different locations that built-in functions can use, and that will be in another video. And then when we actually want to generate the report, we have an option to send it either directly to a printer or save it to a file. And this file can be stored on the local hard drive of the PC running the application. It could be a network attached drive. It could even be removable media like a USB stick or SD card. So in Blue Open Studio, to create a report, under Project Explorer, we go to the Tasks tab, and we see Reports about halfway down. We will right-click and select Insert, and then we get the report worksheet. And this is broken up into a header and a main body. In the header, there are just a few fields. The first is the description, and then there is the output file. And what this is these are typically straight text fields. However, for the output file, we could put our report name in dynamically using a tag inside of curly brackets. And for this, we also have to add in the file extension that we want to use. So for example, for us, I'm going to put in for description, training report. And then for the output file, I'm actually going to enter in a new tag. I'm going to use curly brackets, and then I'm going to put in report name. And then at the end, outside of the curly brackets, I'm going to put in the file extension, .txt. So for the output file, I've just put the tag name inside of curly brackets and then the file extension. When we actually trigger the report save, that's when we will tell it the path where the report will be saved. And then to the right of these 2 fields, we have a button for Edit RTF file. And what this allows us to do is access the RTF file template for the report. And then you can edit the layout, what information is included, and so on. For every other file type, text file, CSV, XML, HTML, we'll use the body portion of the worksheet for that. And then to the right, we have 3 checkboxes under options. The first is disk append. What this allows us to do is decide whether we want to overwrite an existing report with the same file name or append to that file with the new information. By default, the box is unchecked, meaning that we will overwrite any file or report with the same name as what's configured in the output file field for this report worksheet. Then we have Unicode, and this will allow you to save the report in Unicode format, which is basically 2 bytes per character. Or with it unchecked, we save in ASCII format, which is 1 byte per character. This comes into play when you're talking about large reports or you have very small storage space for your report. Then we have lock value into the tag/expression length. And what this does is, with it enabled, it will automatically truncate the values of any tags or expressions in the report body to fit between the curly brackets as they are positioned inside of the worksheet body. This helps preserve the layout of a report. So for example, if we put in the system tag called date, which is 4 characters inside of the curly brackets, typically the date is going to be something like 8 characters or more. Then what it will do is, instead of placing all 8 in, it will truncate it to the first 4 and place it to within the curly bracket size. This is really to help preserve the actual layout of the report. Normally, when you configure a worksheet for reports, you don't want to do that. You want to get the full value. So by default, it's unchecked. So now we have our report name set up in the output file. We're going to leave everything else set to default. And when I click away, it's going to ask me to create the tag. I'll click yes, and I'm going to set this as a string and scope to local and click OK. And then in the body, there are several different ways you can configure this. If you're using text like we are, it's very straightforward. Just think of this as a notepad or text file that you're editing. With XML or HTML, you can place in your HTML, XML code for headers and other properties that you want to set up. And then for CSV, you are entering things in and separating them by commas. And then of course for RTF, you would use the Edit RTF button to configure that option. So for example, for us, we just want to make a simple report. So I am going to enter in a title called Production Report. And then I'm going to enter in the date and the time below it. Date. And then in curly brackets, I'm going to put in the date tag. And then time. And then once again in curly brackets, I'm going to put in the time tag. And then I'm going to enter in a few blank lines. And then I'm going to start the report body. Current values. Now I'm going to enter in the actual report information. So the first one I'm going to use is temperature. And then I'm going to put the temperature tag in curly brackets. And then I'm going to use one called flow rate. And once again, the tag in curly brackets. And then I'm going to enter in mode. And for this, I actually want to determine what the label would be for the mode. And this goes back to a previous video where we set up the mode for either automatic or manual. So I'm going to enter in an expression here. And this is similar to when we set up a rectangle or a button for the caption. To enter in a function, we have to put it into curly brackets. So I'm going to use the if function. So I'm going to put an open curly bracket and then if, then a parenthesis, mode equals 1, comma, and then in quotes, automatic, comma, and in quotes again, manual. And then a close parenthesis, close curly bracket. And then I will enter in a few more blank lines, and then I'm going to put in who the report is generated by. So report generated by, and then I'm going to use a built-in system tag called username. And then just to make it easier when we actually look at append, I am going to add in just 2 rows of dashes, just so we can easily identify between different reports. And that is it for the body. So I'm going to come up to save, and it'll ask me to save it as the file name. And this isn't a number like it is for any of the other worksheets. This is the actual name. And the file name you put in here is important because when you trigger a report save with the built-in function, this is the name of the report that you're going to give. So I'm going to call it report 1. And that's it. Just click OK. And it says that the document has validation errors. Please check the log window. Do you want to continue saving? I click yes. And that is because we see down here in the output window, it says that there is a compile error, invalid command, tag/expression flow rate, meaning that this tag does not currently exist. So we have to create it. So we'll quickly just go back to our global tab in the Project Explorer, open up our datasheet view of the project tags. At the very bottom, I'm just going to type in flow rate. And I am going to leave it as integer and set the scope to local. So keep that in mind when you're generating a report body, especially with text files. It will come up and it will say that there is a syntax or compile error, and that is because it doesn't automatically check to see if those are tags that exist. So now we have it configured, we have our tag set up, and we have the report saved. So now we can start to configure the screen to generate and save the report. So I'm going to close my report worksheet. And I'm going to go to the Graphics tab in Project Explorer. And I'm going to open my template screen. And I'm going to save this screen as a new screen. I'm going to call it Reports. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place 2 linked symbol sliders down on the screen for our data. So I'm going to go into my symbol library and I'm going to select slider 1, place 1 here, and then I'm going to copy it. I'm going to configure the first one for temperature. I'm going to leave the min and the max at default. And then for the second one, I'm going to configure it for flow rate. And I'm going to leave the min and the max at default. So now we have 2 pieces of data that we can modify for the report. Now we need to give it a report name because when we set up the output file, we put in a tag for the name. So I'm going to go to Graphics, and I'm going to use a text data link. So I'm going to click on Text under Active Objects. Just place it on the screen, and I'm going to start typing report name, and hit Enter. And then I'm going to open up the properties, and then click on the Text Data Link button. And for the tag or expression, I'm going to double click to bring up the object finder. And instead of scrolling, I'm going to come up to the selection field and type in report. And you see that we have report name show up. So I'm going to double click on that to select it. And then I'm going to enable input, but I'm going to leave the min and max value and disable fields empty. Then I'm going to go back to text, and I'm going to add pound signs to this because we want more than just 4 characters. So I'm going to make it a total of 20. Okay, and now we're all set for our report name. And now we need to configure a way to save or generate the report. So under Graphics, I'm going to click on Button, and then click and drag to add a button to the screen. Come into the Properties. Caption, I'm going to change to Print Report. And then I'm going to go to Command. And I will go to the On Up tab. And we are going to use the built-in language to generate and save the report. But first we need to look at the report built-in function that we're going to use. So I bring up the tech ref and I'm going to search for a report. And I will click on report. And this brings us to the built-in function. And what we see here is that we have two arguments. We have the string function argument, which tells us where we want to send the report. Do we want to save it to disk? Do we want to generate a PDF? Or do we want to send it to a printer? And then the optional argument, which is the orientation, either portrait or landscape. By default, it is always selected to portrait, and if you leave this argument blank, it will use portrait orientation. So what we need to do for ours is we need to put in report and then our function, which is where we want to locate it, and then the worksheet name. So for example, we see it here, operation : worksheet. So if I go back into my application, on the expression column, because I don't have to put anything into tag unless I want the result of the report generation, and in this case I don't, I'm going to type in report, open parenthesis, a quotation or double quote, and then disk : report1.rep. Another double quote and a close parenthesis. And that is it. So what we're telling it here is we want to save it to a disk, and we want to generate a report based on the report1.rep report worksheet. So now we have our save trigger configured properly. So now I'll come up and I will save the screen. And I will close it, and the symbols as well. So now we have a report worksheet and the report screen configured. Now we just have to add a button to the navigation screen in order to get to it. So I'm going to open my navigation screen, copy my linked symbols button, and then I'm simply going to change the open from symbols to reports, and then back on the button, change the caption to reports. I'm going to save this, close, and then I will start the runtime. And now I will go to my report screen, and I will first enter in a name, and I will give it training report, and then I will change the values for temperature and for flow rate, and then I will click print report. And now the report has been generated, or at least it should have been. So I will first navigate to it through Windows Explorer. So open Windows Explorer, and is located in the application folder for our program. So ours, or at least mine, is located under C drive and BOS_training. And I will maximize this. And we see here that we have training report.txt. So if I open this text file, see I have my title, my date and time, and then my current values, along with the mode, and then the report generated by, and then my current username. Then I have my two lines as a separator. So I will now close this, and I will go back into Blue Open Studio. And now, if I say change these, then I print another report. If I bring up Windows Explorer again, and I open the training report, you see now that the time has changed, and my values have, and it has overwritten the current or existing report. So what I will do is I will once again go back into Blue Open Studio, but this time the development. I will go to tasks, expand the reports folder, open my training report, and I will check the box for disk append. Then I will save. And then once I save, I'll also go to the output window. And in another video, we will go into great detail about what the output window can do. But for right now, I'm going to right click and go into settings. And on the log settings window, towards the bottom of the second column is recipe/report. I'm going to check that box and click OK. And then I am going to snap my development to the left-hand side of my screen. And then I'm going to snap the runtime to the right-hand side. And now I will click Print Report again. And you see here that we have an entry in the output window that says disk, colon, and then it gives us the path and the file name for the report, the status, and what the return result was for the report command. Status is okay, report command returns 0, means that everything went properly. So I'll bring up Windows Explorer again, and I will open the report. And now you see that we have two different entries. The values are the same, but you see that the time for the two are different. So I will close this, and I will go back into my Blue Open Studio development, and I will now open my reports screen. Because sometimes we can't open Windows Explorer to get to the report, and we may want to display it automatically via the Blue Open Studio application. So what I'm going to do, I will maximize again just so we can get a better look. So I'll go to the Graphics tab, and then I will bring up my symbol library, and I'll go under Buttons, and I will see a button called Button_Notepad. I will click on it to select it, come back into my report screen, and drop this down on the screen. And now you see I have a pre-canned button to open Notepad that I've placed on the screen. We'll open its properties, and you see that I have a couple of different fields. The ones that are important to us are file name and path. So for file name, I'm going to enter in the tag report name. Then I'm actually going to change the label as well to open report. And now if we were to save the report in another location other than the application directory, we would put the path in here. But since we haven't, we can leave that blank. I'm now going to save. And I will close the properties, snap my development back to the left. And now we see that our screen has been updated with the new button. I will save, or I'll modify the values. And then I will save the report. And now I will open it via the new button. You see that it opens Notepad and it opens the report. You see we now have 3 entries. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact ProFace America Technical Support by phone at 1-800-289-9266, option 2, or by email, support@profaceamerica.com. You can also visit our website, profaceamerica.com, for manuals, drivers, product FAQs, and other product and software information. Thanks again, and have a great day.